we're going to be starting down here in the bottom left-hand side of the map. Top of the blue Zerg player. He is Vanya.
And his opponent in the northeast, the red Zerg player, teamless, he is Lambo.
You know, Nate, nothing wakes me up like those little guitar riffs in the morning.
Nothing, no. But usually when we be doing like WCS Challenger like a year or two ago now, it was the walk from the security gate to that studio where I would have usually like Tay-Tay or something just blasting to wake me up on that little stroll through the darkness of Burbank. But now we've got dope guitar riffs jamming out. What more could you possibly ask for? I'll tell you what you could ask for Fear Dragon. It's ZVZ, also known to be, basically the equivalent of about 3 cups of coffee. And they say that the moment before a Baneling explodes in front of 20 Zerglings, ending the game in an instant, you can actually feel through StarCraft client itself, everyone's heart rates jump through the roof. So
I mean, it definitely makes sense. From what I've read, official StarCraft 2 lore is that the Baneling poison is actually about 85 to 87% toxic chemicals, maybe like 8% biomass, and then it's actually like 40% caffeine.
Yeah, well, I just thought it was straight speed force and that it doesn't actually melt in the traditional sense like acid would, but it actually just accelerates all of the cells in the being itself until it disintegrates from moving too fast and just burns itself out on air friction, which is why Banelings do not actually deal damage in a vacuum. They just make you really, really awake.
That makes sense because that happens when you get Zergling or Baneling speed, right? That's the change. That's why we call it Baneling speed. Yeah,
exactly.
All right.
Exactly. They just start using their own supply. They just start using their own supply and then they go faster. It's actually a ripoff that the upgrade costs anything because the Banelings had it in them all along.
Yeah, for a little bit, we actually made them turn yellow but we just kind of decided, nah, they look bad.
No. The team colors was a bad move on them. So far we've had a pretty mirror openings, which for 2 esteemed Zerg experts such as ourselves, there's a lot to break down. Vanya's going to get the Baneling nest up first, and Lambo is going to trickle out a couple of lings instead of going for something else. I think he does want to try and put pressure on this third base. You don't always see people really hard commit to it in ZVZ, but oftentimes if you can force an overreaction or even an underreaction, as long as they don't perfectly respond to this type of harass, I personally am a big fan of it because I feel like you put your opponent on the back foot, they get defensive early. You're also kind of, you're taking the lead role in this, shall we say, slow dance that we call ZVZ, where you're going to be the one dipping the other player, and all of a sudden they feel like they're at your mercy. Now the Lings are going to be able to surround one of the queens outside this hatchery. This is what I'm talking about. Oh, and well, okay, he almost left that one to survive, but as the rest of the Lings show up, not only that, he denies the Baneling nest, and as this queen gets closer, is it bait mate? He could get the queen easily. I feel like Lambo getting a really good pressure at the start of this map, Fear Dragon.
That is a fantastic start. Not only going to get 2 of the queens, but also getting the hatchery. I mean, Nate, losing the queens alone, you're going to start losing out on a lot of larva production. Losing 2 queens and the hatchery, I'm actually really worried for the longevity right now for Vanya. And Vanya, I think, is also pretty worried. He's going to be immediately moving across the map. But Nate, when you have 4 Banelings that you're trying to move across the map with, it can get really difficult. And we're actually even seeing those Banelings retreat home to just be defensive while the Lings try and get damage done.
See, that I find fascinating, Fear Dragon, because I don't know if Vanya was able to get the read on this, but the Baneling nest is only just finishing for Lambo. He did not build a Bane nest. He was not ready for even a counter Bane flood. And in fact, he kind of opens that wall up. He was worried about it. But I think it's very important to note, as you said, Vanya not bringing his Banelings out. I'm like, dude, this is actually one of your better opportunities to do something. And at the end of the day, it's just going to end up with Lambo not having to rebuild that third base. Even if he didn't have a ton of drones on it early on to take advantage of it, is still nice because he gets the extra larva from it. Obviously, the vision of having it over there. And whenever he does build drones, they will be ready to go.
Spire is going to be the big option over here from Vanya, kind of a opportunity of how to try and come back in this game a bit. The 2 Banelings over here for Vanya, very far forward. I'm surprised 1 or 2 of the Lings didn't stick themselves in the Banelings just to try and gradually take him out, but Lambo is getting aggressive. The Banelings have been waddling across the map. We're going to see how much damage they can do. Oh my god, a massive connection there for Lambo. A great start to an already really, really solid bit of aggression this game.
Yeah, I mean, the words of a famous Frenchman echo in my mind. I'm looking at the supply and it's looking pretty good for our German Zerg player in red. He's got really solid pressure on that third base. We talk about what makes it difficult to secure. If he picks those Banelings off, things could fall apart really, really fast. And you just have to be constantly aware of the positioning of those queens. A couple of the lings are going to slip into the main base. He might try to turn eggs in the corner. He has to have his eyes on that, but he's still pushing over by the third. Lambo's going to trickle out another 24 Zerglings behind this while he gets his 1-1. The only thing, Fear Dragon, that does make me a little bit anxious, we're seeing that Lambo did not actually get his lair still. He has a Roach Horn, he has a Baneling Nest, but the Spire is about to finish for Vanya. And if he can start to build up any decent number of mutas, he has enough gas to get about 6 or 7 immediately, then the possibility for him to take map control, get back on, and kind of contain Lambo is very real. But as I said, he has to actually get there. The Mutalisks are not out yet. Banelings are going to be coming back over for Vanya to try and defend the third hatch. But if he can pick this off or slip lings into the main, get some actual drone damage done, this is going to get real ugly real fast for Vanya.
Ooh, that's actually most of the Banelings. That's all of the Banelings there for Vanya. Sure, there are some Mutalisks that are now popping, but the Mutalisks do take some time to actually kill all of these Zerglings, especially if they decide to spread out themselves. Now, we already see a lot of drones going down at this point. This is already the point of no return, and it looks like Vanya agrees. Lambo, 1-0.
Well, like I said, Lambo, he took the man's role in this dance, and he absolutely steered the game in the direction that he wanted to go with a phenomenal twirl to end map 1 there. And of course, there's a best of 5, so there's plenty of potential action and comeback possibilities for Mr. Vanya, but just really like seeing the commitment to that early pressure on the third base. It's very easy to undercommit, and you're like, oh, I'll build some lings, but I don't want to build too many Zerglings, and you don't kill the third base, and you're like, why did I do anything in the first place? So just really good decisive play to start this series off. Lambo's looking like he had his Wheaties today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he was going Rambo right now as he's just been able to pump on a lot of that aggression with the early snipe off on the third hatchery and also getting the 2 queens. That's what sets everything up for the Lambo in that game, right? That's what kind of drives all the decision making of these are the ways that I'm ahead. I feel like I can continue to flood lings. I feel like I can continue to try and do some more damage while getting a few drones up behind. Okay, I'm starting to move some lings in. I see you have a Spire. Let's go. Let's just kill you now.
That's right. We're going to go into Death Aura for the second map as we get ever closer to that terrifying one you were talking about. We'll see if Lambo is able to just get the stomp, the curb stomp 3-0, then I think, we managed to save ourselves the bit of trauma that we'll experience watching another ZVZ on Everdream.
It's so funny too, because there's the whole wall that you're supposed to be able to do on Everdream, but ever since TLO versus Silky, where Silky did the wall and TLO still broke through, I'm kind of like, does the wall work? Does the wall shut this down? I'm not sure anymore, Nate.
Not until Showtime starts playing Zerg, unfortunately. We're loaded into game number 2. In the bottom right, we have the red Zerg player. He is Lambo.
And up at the top left-hand side of the map, we have the blue Zerg player. He is Vanya. I don't think I've heard that one yet.
He's got Cheeky Pool first from Senor Vanya. Interesting to see if he's going to mega commit with this. If he feels like he's already kind of in an awkward position after that first game. I mean, Lambo kind of dominated him to start this match off. So I definitely think he's, shaking it up. Not necessarily a bad move to go for. But then again, Death Aura is it's a big map for your dragon. There's a lot of room. Real estate is on an all-time low on this map because there's just too much space.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you. I think for that reason, sometimes, I was gonna say.
Oh my god! Okay, he's doing it on this map.
Yep. So
I didn't know people did it on this one too.
Here's part of the logic is that because it's also such a big map, it means the overlords take a little bit longer, and that also means is more area to cover, so you can kind of split stuff around.
This build is everybody doing this build in ZVZ?
It's not even just that he's doing it on this map. He pulls his drones around the corner on this map and takes even longer to get there, but the Overlord still spots it.
Okay, so what is he gonna? He's gonna wall it. He can't full wall. Is it just to make it so the drones have to take longer to get around? Is that the entire play here?
I think so. The idea is that you can't have as much area to build on creep in the corner area. So you have to go all the way up to that side. And I think that now the idea here is that Lambo feels like when his lings pop, he's just going to have so much surface area. And also none of those spine crawlers, I think, are in range of the hatchery right now. I think that's part of it.
I didn't think we were gonna get into this early on. This is ugly, man. This is the ugly stuff they don't tell you about in the StarCraft documentaries, man. These drones and lings in each other's faces is just absolutely insane. The queen is out for Lambo. He has still quite a few of his drones alive, and GG up 2-0. Everybody just, this build is just, I feel like every other CBC I watch.
You thought you would escape from it, but we're doing it on Death Aura.
I'm going to leave 3 drones behind. I'd rather have that Brood War economy, please, sir. And I'll send everything else across the map.
Yeah. Great scout there from Lambo. I feel like this is one of those things where you'd have to dig into the Zerg players' minds of like, all right, is that where you normally send your second?
I don't want to go into the mind of people doing this build. I don't want to know what's going on in there. Okay, I've seen enough movies. I've seen Inception. Okay, I'm good. I'm good, Fear Dragon. I don't want to know where that comes from.
Man, I'm a little bit disappointed though. Like I feel as though Vanya made it out of a group that was not just like a bunch of Protoss and Terran players. It was half Zerg players. So I feel like his ZVZ definitely showed that he has some pretty solid ZVZ when it comes up to it. I'm a little bit disappointed of the way that second game went and the fact that Vanya decided to go for something like that. That's a really tough map, I feel like, to make it work on. I guess Lambo also had like that whole wall in, so I can't really argue with the fact that he did it because clearly it ended up helping or working at least. So we move on to game number 3. Nate,
well, I like your logic. I like your logic a lot, Fear Dragon, because where he built it, what with the way that the pool was placed, especially like if he had built the spine in that area, he can kind of play around that and deny something. I honestly don't really understand the intricacies of this 12 pool drone pool as well. I feel like this is just one of those things that makes sense to people like Cats and I guess Lambo and Vanya, as they both do it a lot, but it's beyond my understanding. Even us Terran players don't really have builds this messed up.
Isn't it great that all of the races that normally wall do not understand the CVC's walls at all?
No, they don't make any sense. In the top right, trailing 0-2 pretty quickly here to kick off our day of StarCraft for DreamHack Masters. He is Vanya.
All right, and down here in the bottom left-hand corner of the map, we have the red Zerg player up 2-0. He is Lambo.
And here's one thing I'm going to add to this discussion, Fear Dragon. I will say I gain a little bit of respect, especially seeing, Lambo must do that build a decent amount of himself in practice, right, on those maps. But I think as one of the players to be bold enough to do it also means that there's an interesting discussion that we get into when it comes to like StarCraft practice and whatnot. But people are like, well, certain builds are bad or certain builds like aren't as good as others. But what makes a build good isn't necessarily just the math on like, oh, is this build efficient or does it get good units out early enough? A lot of it just boils down to, has, Lambo done this strategy or played against it enough times to build that kind of, understanding of how to deal with it. And I always find that interesting, right? The players who are willing to do those types of cheese builds will also usually be better at holding them, just because you have the experience from seeing what other players can do to beat you. Even if it's not a guy like Cyril, but even random ladder hero could still show you something that you may not have thought about when it comes to like holding one of those types of attacks when it comes to unit positioning or anything of that sort. Now we do have still another fast pull, no drones this time from Vanya, but with Lings being in production, or excuse me, only 2 Lings being in production, it is a little bit of a tricky situation. These drones for Lambo are going to have to run back up into his main base. You do not want to lose workers to this.
Yeah, this wasn't like a 12 pool or anything. It's a 15 pools. Ooh, already losing one of the workers, losing 2 workers. I would actually already say that Vanya's probably pretty happy with how this went. Killing off 3 workers and also a few Lings. I mean, this has been great for Vanya so far.
Okay, here's an interesting question though, Fear Dragon. Is he being too greedy behind this? There's no Zergling speed. He has almost 200 gas. It seems that he's feeling a bit frisky here with the way that he's going straight to a lair. But I see speed almost done for Lambo. I see a Baneling nest, and I'm feeling a little bit scared. That Zergling does die to the drone surround, and he starts the spine crawler. He saw the Baneling nest. Yep. Is that going to be enough?
You know, I feel like if you start the wall off here, right? Because no matter what, even if you weren't going to get huge Ling floods or Baneling
floods, of that tumor. The tumor, right? Getting even full wall? Is that a full wall? I don't know. I don't understand ZVZ enough. Every time I've ever tried to play ZVZ, I make a wall like this and I'm like, oh, I'm fine. And then, 50 Zerglings run through anyway.
I believe it's a wall. We're going to find out if it's not very, very quickly. And so will Vanya.
Zergs have like the Schrodinger's wall where you never really know if it's a wall until you test it, right?
No, I actually...
No wall is a wall until 50 Zerglings try to run past it. So he's going to get this around here on the front structure that is the Roach War, and that is the tech building as well. So even though the lair situation is going to be completed, he's not actually able to get out roaches or anything. He can only build Lings to deal with the Lings. And, well, Fear Dragon, he still never got Zergling speed. So it's just, if he dances around these spines, this could get ugly really fast.
I think it's so important right now that Vanya has those Lings on the ramp because he does not want to allow Lambo into the main base. It's not about scouting the Spire or anything. At this point, I'm pretty sure Lambo has an idea that something's happening. It's about the fact that you said the Zergling speed is going to make it so difficult to chase down these Lings. But look at this. Lambo is able to keep the wall open and does manage to escape out of there alive with a lot of his Lings, but really didn't get the damage done that I think he was looking for there.
No, you know, it's like you kind of get the drones pulled off that natural mineral line. But at the end of the day, it appears that Vanya is going to be able to do what he wanted to do, which is get out Mutalisks at a pretty early time. However, there are caveats to playing like this, especially without that Ling speed. And I do find that to still be a question mark when you're going for the mutas. Maybe he is just going to end up going roaches because of this, but it's really hard to get your third base when you're being this defensive. Those spine crawlers are eating up your larva and your resources. And he really only has those 2 extractors right now. So he hasn't been mining a ton of gas. He has 800 minerals, but only enough gas to build 4 mutas as the Spire completes. And it's not like he doesn't have queens to defend with on the other side of the map too. So I feel like if Lambo could get creeped to a third base and try to move over there, he could get something done. Or with his lair, maybe he goes for a Nidus and just tries to counter all in since he can't build that many mutas. Okay, no, he's going to get his own Spire and just try to say, hey, I'll have more gas total mind and use that with the Zerglings to take over the map.
Yeah, it's just going to be a tough one, right? Because yes, he's going to potentially have the ability to get up a lot of gas right now with his 4 gas guys and everything, but he had to invest in Zergling speed. He had to invest into a Baneling nest. He had to invest into like making all those Banelings to the big bus. I am a little bit skeptical right now that Lambo's going to have a ton of gas available when his Spire finishes up in order to deal with everything here.
Yeah. And unfortunately, a little bit of
oh, Jesus. I thought it was me.
It happens. It happens. Yeah. Well, when it freezes like that before it goes to the counter screen, everyone thinks it's them. I'm sitting here. You know, what got me more awake than this series so far was actually just looking at the screen and being like, oh my God, did my internet drop out? But then I'm like, I'm still talking to Fear Dragon, so we should be okay, right? But
yeah, you guys get the little backup safety of the other co-caster's voice. Yeah, it should. I do feel like in this situation right now, it's going to be actually pretty tough for Lambo. This is the best position I feel like we've seen Vanya in this entire series so far.
I agree. At the same time, it still feels like such a low eco game since both players are on those 2 bases that I think we're at that point where a couple good micro moves can still have that huge impact. Probably worth pointing out, I guess, since we're still waiting for this to get back going. The Flyer Carapace has been picked very early as well for Vanya, which says to me he wants to commit. He wants to commit. He wants to put a ring on this build order, Fear Dragon. He's not going to be, you know, he's not just here for the summer.
Yeah, and I actually love that Vanya's doing that, because if you think you're not going up against mutas yourself, like it's not going to be muta versus muta, you want to get the Flyer attack upgrade, because your mutas will do damage a little bit faster. They'll pick away at roaches and kind of negate some of the armor that they have. But against other mutas, Carapace reigns supreme, like undoubtedly. So I feel like this is kind of Vanya saying like, hey, I noticed that you've also been on 2 bases for a really long time. I think you're probably doing the same thing I am. I'm just going to have better upgrades. So even if you are able to catch up in muta count early on, my upgrade should just allow me to dominate the fights.
Yeah, it really heavily affects the bounce damage as well, because with no attack upgrades, the bounce really, what is it? It's like full damage, then 3 damage, then 1 damage. But that 1 damage really never manifests itself because it turns into a half damage. And since you don't usually have like a crazy number of mutas all bouncing those same 1 damages off the same unit, you're not always going to actually get your half damage applied into real stat changes on units. And that's a whole different weird can of worms that we have to get into to describe half damage points in SC2. But suffice it to say, going for Muta Carapace early on makes mutas really good against mutas.
And that Plus Carapace upgrade has finished up for these mutas. Right now, it's relatively even muta counts as well. So I do think this is that point where Lambo's got to be clicking on those mutas for Vanya and saying, I can't really take a fight unless I have like queen support or something over here. And those queens are coming off the line, heading over to that 3rd base to help defend. Now, I do like that Lambo during all this is going for a bit of a Ling counterattack, but it looks like there are plenty of Lings here for Vanya ready to intercept.
Yeah, I like using the Zerglings like this. You know, feels very Hellion-esque, where you're just like saying, hey, I know that you're investing a lot into your Air Force just as much as I am, so I'm going to throw these Zerglings at you to buy time. However, I don't know that he realized that Vanya also got that +1 melee, so his Zerglings are just straight up better in a head-to-head fight now. Even though he got his speed so late, if he's able to fight on even supply, those 2 upgrades that he has should enable him to win pretty big. But Lambo's going to try and take this fight right now because he's recognized he's a small mutalist count advantage. That upgrade difference could end up coming back to bite him, though, and it does. GG, Vanya is going to get on the board. Will not be curb stomped down in this best of 5.
Yeah, I mean, nice job there from Vanya, obviously, to get to that kind of situation and everything. We are going to go to a short break before we hop into game number 4. So, ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. You're watching the first series of the day. And we are back and ready to move into the best map for a ZVZ, Nate. People dream about
I told you if it
this
happens,
map.
I'm going to be very upset. If it happens, I'm going to be very upset, Ravi. I'm not okay with this. No more. It needs to stop.
20% of the time.
These
it doesn't
drones were
happen.
not morphed to fight. Drones were not made to fight, Fear Dragon.
It actually does just feel like guerrilla warfare every single time we see it. You're like, ooh, you know, we didn't have to turn it into this. You know, we could have respected the Geneva conventions and stuff. And
Somebody broke. When I watch
engaged in
these games, Fear Dragon, I think about somebody shattering open the big glass tank at Red Lobster, okay, and then just going ham on everybody. It's not supposed to happen. People should be able to fight back against those. They're not meant to fight like that. I don't know. If there's a quick pull in this game, I'm gonna be very upset.
I actually can't unsee drones being lobsters now. That's canon for me. That's lore. They have evolved from lobsters.
Yeah, they basically are just giant lobsters. With like
Lobsters
kind of
that like
fins.
minerals.
Their claws, at least, they make me think about.
Nate,
About that.
we've dodged it. We've dodged out of the way of it. There's drones in production. We're going to be starting up here on top of the blue. Zerg player. He is Vanya.
And his opponent also, thankfully, not going for the lobster rush. In the red, he is Lambo. Oh, especially like when you look at the Brood War drone skin, right? No.
Oh, yeah.
I could totally see that fried with some like garlic aioli. You know what I mean? Actually,
I'm
that's like
definitely
it's a redundant. That's a redundant phrase. Apparently, most people just don't know that the base for aioli is generally like a garlic butter anyway. But when you say garlic aioli, you're actually just kind of saying the same word twice. Apparently, someone
Actually,
recently educated me on this subject.
Here's an idea, Nate, for a skin, which I know you love your skins, right? You have a drone, but the claws are much further out to the side, and they'll look like crabs. Just so that when we go to Everdream,
animation like a spin or
oh yes, it would be great. You attack sideways, just purely so that we can say when you 12 pull drone all in on Everdream, it's a crab battle.
I'm down with that.
I feel like this would greatly enhance the game, Blizzard. Please.
This is the greatest ZVZ commentary that's ever enhanced the game. Is what I'm thinking, Fear Dragon.
Well, we're actually getting just normal openings here, so I'm really pleased. It's still
I know
worth
that's
noting.
actually kind of worse for us, really.
I know, we're outside of our wheelhouse now, Nate. Anything goes.
It's easier to just kind of shout.
ZVZ, I feel like it is one of those matchups where you still have the potential for a lot of the big link floods, the baneling stuff and everything. And I feel like Everdream is still a very small map. That's even though we don't see like the 12 pull drone pull all in or anything, this is still definitely a map that I feel like lends itself to early aggression.
Yeah, well, one of the reasons at least why that build it gets used or is popular, I think, is because of the the very direct attack path. You just kind of go straight across and it's not that far. But there's also other things about this map that have decent defensive properties, right? This third base that gets taken, there's kind of just that main way into it. It's not too open of a choke point, so you have that high ground bit. But then again, you also have a big open area with no ramp directly in front of the natural. So staging ground for early pressure or harass can always be a question mark. I'm wondering if we're going to see Lambo try and commit again to getting a cancel or a kill on this third base. And I wonder at the same time if Vanya is going to either be able to react to that properly, or if he's going to be a little bit greedy in some different way. We do have a divergence in tech paths. Baneliness is almost done for Lambo as he gets his speed. But Vanya's getting a Roach Warren while he's starting to crank out the Zerglings, Fear Dragon.
A very large number of Zerglings as well. I mean, the 16 Zerglings, this definitely can lend itself to a lot of early aggression. We're going to actually wait and see. Is he going to make drones behind this? He is making a few drones. So I was going to say, sometimes we see Zerg players just hammer to the, or, foot to the pedal, just going hard on Lings and then following up with a bunch of Roaches. But we are going to see at least a bit of a transition there from Vanya. It is still something that has to get something done.
Yeah, these Lings getting this around on that third base. So it looks like the shoe is on the other foot for Lambo this game, as he's going to be the player kind of being pressured into that two base not necessarily going to say soft contain. Oh my God. When he pulled those lings, I thought for a second he pulled all of them. And I'm like, you can't let this base live, right? No. And he is still going to get the roaches behind it. So this is meant to be a 1-2 punch. And the impact of getting the third base first, rather than trying to like dive on drones or something, is that he's limited the larva production pretty significantly for Lambo. In the worst case, at least for this push, Vanya's third is a macro hatch. He can at least build stuff out of it. And they're going to get into a little Zergling brawl up in front of that natural.
Yeah, and I almost feel like at this point, Vanya's done enough, right? He's got his own third up. I like just leaving your roaches at home. You got +1 Carapace on the way as well. You still got a bunch of lings alive. Keep your units alive. Maybe try and be annoying with a third base. If you can snipe off the drone or something, that's great. But don't sacrifice too many lings or anything for it. And just, you're ahead. You have more drones. You have a faster third base. And you still have an equal army supply. This is great for Vanya.
Yeah, good pressure so far. These lings are going to try and gut check the natural. There is no glaring vulnerability, so to speak, for him to try and attack on. But, you know, Lambo's behind on drones, Fear Dragon. He's just been building roaches very patiently behind this. And Vanya's going back into those. And this is where things get really tricky, because that +1 Carapace that's going to finish for Vanya, his roaches are going to become indestructible when it comes to the Zerglings attempting to get on them. And we can basically stop thinking about Banelings versus Lings. As we all know, that's going to make them require 2 Banes to kill. So basically, Lambo needs to have the sickest micro for this push to make it work, because he's pushing out down 20 supply to his opponent, who is going to have that big upgrade advantage going into the fight.
I'm definitely with you, Nate. It kind of feels like Lambo is the train, and we see him. He's headed straight for the big, hard cement brick wall. And unless he can somehow manage to drift this train in a different direction with some fantastic micro, this is not going to go very well, but we'll see what he can make work. He does get into a nice position over here at the third base, where that hatchery is acting as a big blockade. The Banelings also doing some decent splash damage, but Nate, still not feeling this for Lambo right now.
No, his units are just too chunky. That's the problem. And he has the Ravagers in the back that are able to give him that really supportive range. He does pick off one of them. But in this type of situation, unless you really snowball, when you're behind on economy, you just can't build as much stuff. And you take a defender's at the end, and then you add like defender's advantage into it. And, you know, like what we're really all just boiled down to that really good play on the third base that Vanya made to get us to this situation where he was able to afford that upgrade without really risking too much. And whenever I watch ZBZ and someone squeezes out any early upgrade that the other player doesn't realize, it always ends up having like this massive impact on the outcome of the game, because you're like, oh, I've got 15 lings fighting 15 lings. If I put control, if I do this, that, and then you realize that you've killed no Zerglings, because your lings take one more hit to kill his than, you know, it takes him to kill yours. And you're like, oh yes, I've lost this game terribly. It's completely over now.
Yeah, I wish I could go back and look at the replay again and just kind of see, okay, what was prompting Lambo's decision-making that he missed the big flood of lings and everything that were coming in? Because Everdream is a small map. I'm definitely going to give that to Lambo and say you have a little bit less time to react and actually pump out a bunch of lings. I wonder if it was just that Lambo made a big swell of drones, but it was the fact that all of those lings are able to be made, and also at the exact same time, you're able to start up a Carapace upgrade, and you just have hit your opponent at a time. It's like you have army and you have tech. What did Lambo have? It didn't feel like he had a big drone advantage either. So I'm wondering where did the extra stuff come in there for Lambo?
He got that Baneling nest, right? That was about the only thing I noticed. And that didn't really end up being very useful, because he wasn't able to get it at a time that he could use to actually deny that. Or he just didn't build the Banes and missed the lings completely. It's unfortunate. But like, you know, it can easily kind of turn the other way. If he has just 1 or 2 Banes, he blows up those lings, saves that expansion. And then all of a sudden he goes for a counterattack, the likes of which you can't get +1 Carapace, because you have to get, you know, units out to actually defend, and then you might die to a ling flood. But definitely an interesting turnaround this series has taken, as Vanya has managed to even things up. We're loading into Golden Wall, and this was the decisive map for Lambo's victory over Serral in their group stage. I'm very certain that we're going to see Vanya have his eyes on those middle mineral patches if they both end up going for those gold bases. But it is time to find out who is going to win and who's going to lose the first match of the day here. Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching the DreamHack Masters. In the bottom right, we have the red Zerg player. He is Lambo.
And over here on the left-hand side of the map, we have the blue Zerg players starting to pull the series back. It is Vanya. You know, Nate, one thing that we haven't really mentioned, because we kind of showed the bracket a little bit, we showed that, yeah, this is going to be the lower bracket match, and that's pretty much what we're covering today, is we're covering all the lower bracket matches. But that means that in the lower bracket, this is do or die. This is an elimination, not just match. This is an elimination game right here. One of these players getting knocked out of DreamHack Masters Europe.
It's a shame. They're both so strong. It's one of those things where as many good players as there are in this bracket, if positions were shuffled around any amount, like I could easily still see Lambo and Vanya running into each other later, much deeper in the lower bracket, right? They're both so good, and I think especially Vanya proving his place here with how fast he went down 2-0. I think everybody watching was like, okay, it's going to be one of those series. But then, you know, of course, everyone has to remember that my prediction was 3-2, so I kind of willed it into meme magic territory, and here we are waiting to find out who's going to get that 3-2 score. But like I said, when I think about ZVZ and I think about this type of stuff, Lambo's builds have been very smart. He's put a lot of thought process into the strategies he's been doing. And now he's had four games against Vanya to get a good grip on the situation. And as the favorite player in this series, this is where you need to stop screwing around, as it were, with the builds, whatever. You need to do something decisive. You need to be on top of everything that your opponent is up to. And I'm very interested to see what direction he wants to take this game, because already Fear Dragon, Lambo, he's banking gas like Vanya was 2 games ago. He's not going for that fast ling speed. He's instead favoring just to keep powering up that economy. He's going to get an Evo chamber at the natural ramp, and he's going to get a very fast lair.
Yeah, just the mutas have been coming back in full force, it feels like, in the matchup. So I guess it's not a massive surprise, but this is Golden Wall. This isn't just a map that plays like every single other map. There are some kind of weird intricacies about it. You were kind of talking about the minerals in the center, and also just the gold bases can actually play a bit of a weird impact in this map. But also, it's worth noting the entire south side of the map is a bit of dead airspace until those minerals get mined out for the mutas. The mutas have open access to that entire area, and nothing can really chase them down. Queens can't really get around. So I do like the decision to go for mutas on this map.
Yeah, I think it ends up being interesting, though, because he's getting the Roach Warren and +1 attack. So it doesn't necessarily have to be all about the mutas. In fact, he doesn't actually have the gas to get it now because of that +1. So it looks like maybe he's just going to focus on the roaches instead. And +1 melee from Vanya, assuming that the roaches have that +1, you know, the roaches are still going to kill those lings crazy fast. This might be a situation where having taken the not gold base ends up being nice too, because usually when you get that ling speed for the opener in ZVZ, what that buys you versus someone who's going straight roaches is map control. But because Lambo's been so good at dealing with the gold base, I think it makes a lot of sense that you don't try to take it against him, because he's going to go out of his way to punish you for it. And he's been very good at doing so. Particularly, like I said, I'll just say it for the millionth time in that series against Sero. But is he going to be able to hold on to the roach speed push? He's not going to have a lot to deal with it. Just Zergling.
I'm actually really wondering, Nate, do you think that Lambo right now thinks that, Vanya right now thinks that this is actually some kind of muta player or anything? Because I guess he's seen one roach. He's seen that the Roach Warren is still researching things. And I feel as though that's one of those situations where you absolutely can go and have like the Roach Warren up. We've seen Zerg players do this. You make the Roach Warren, you still get up Roach speed and everything, but you do get up the Spire. You make like a low number of mutas just to control the map while you get up a third base and all that stuff behind it. I'm wondering if Vanya is going to be confused or something, or is caught off guard by this and just not have units.
Yeah, the impression that I was under is that he would probably be trying to do something similar to that 2 games ago thing where he's like, okay, Lambo's probably going to play some really standard, boring macro-based build that if I do something that hits a timing, like I have the chance to just really knock him off balance. But Vanya is telling us that he's getting into some connection issues right now. They're just sorting that out. Usually, you know, sometimes your net spikes, Just need to sit for like 30 seconds, sit for a minute, and then things get better. So he's just doing a little ping testing in the chat to make sure that everything is okay. Of course, we want players to be able to compete and not have to deal with too many extra issues. He does say his latency is going down. For anybody who wants the live update, you watch. I do my Newswatch 16 impression. He says it's probably because of a thunder. As, there's no Protoss in this match, but it seems that storms are still overpowered even in this best of 5.
Certainly something that leaves some nightmares there, and a little bit of a residual effect there, Nate. But it does look like it's all kind of resolved for now. Vanya resumed the game, and we're getting back into it. We're going to see how Vanya is going to be reacting over here. He's making a lot of lings, Nate, and with +1 melee on the way, I do think those are the tools he needs to defend against a big Roach pushout.
Yeah, but the Roaches are going to have +1 too. So it still needs to be a pretty serious numbers advantage. Like in a normal scenario, +1 lings are awesome versus Roaches because Roaches normally take 3 hits to kill them. But it's going to be 2 hits for the Roaches to kill the Zerglings, even though the Lings will still chew through the Roaches faster. You know, we always talk about what makes ranged units good against melee units, even en masse. It's just that all the Roaches that can't be hit by the Lings can still shoot at them. But the Queens are caught out front. Ooh. That's a really good grab to start things off here because that third base that Lambo wants to take that gold, if he moves these Roaches into too exposed of a position, he's going to find himself unable to actually protect his drones. And there you go, that back and forth. He's got the Lings headed straight into that main base. The Queen trying to be protected by hold position drones, but it's not going to work. The injects are going down the drain. And you know what? This is buying a tremendous amount of time for the Mutalisk transition. Almost feel like Lambo just needs to try and send everything across the map right now as soon as he gets rid of these Lings. And maybe just try to wall off to prevent against a counter. But Vanya's flooding so many Zerglings into his base. If he can get out enough Mutas to be able to push the Roaches away, things are going to be looking really good for him. But I have to say, he's only building, what is it, like 4 or 5 Mutalisks right now is what he was going for. Or has the gas for, excuse me. He hasn't been able to start them yet. He's going to have to kill 27 Roaches, Fear Dragon.
This eventually, yeah, this is going to become a problem, but he's still buying so much time with these Lings.
Oh, this is brutal.
This is devastating.
Fatality. Oh, these are, oh, goodness. Well,
it's like you said, though, like eventually you need to be able to kill the Roaches. That number of drones going down is big. I love the Roach wall. You can't escape.
Okay, but he's also building the Field of Dreams as far as spine crawlers go back at his natural expansion. With a full evolution chamber wall, Fear Dragon. And it doesn't quite look like a baseball field. And I do think that Lambo is going to come, but at the very least, he set himself up to, at worst, be on the same number of bases as his opponent. And I don't even think he has enough drones to fall behind if he did kill everything that was at that third. But Lambo, I think, man, regretting a little bit the positioning of those Roaches because he still has to basically win the game right here. But there's so many spine crawlers.
It's do or die night. The Broodlings are even blocking in some of the Roaches so they can't immediately dive in past the spines. Some of the spines are going down, but Nate, there are just so many Mutas now at this point. They actually are in high enough numbers that they're starting to kill off these Roaches. They're starting to do the damage. These Roaches are going to try and kill off as many drones as possible, but even the Lings coming in to absorb damage.
Kills 2 drones, Fear Dragon. 2 drones. GG, Vanya.
Wow.